Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Do you have a story of survival?
A parent goes to residential school. They haven't had that family connection. Those traditional values and ceremonies that many of us exposed to are taken.
Or have a lost loved one that was involved in human trafficking, exploitation, missing, or murdered? My name is Jasmine Castillo, and I am the host of Hands Off My podcast that brings to the forefront, specifically from Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Black Indigenous people of color.
Anderson County 911, what's the location of your emergency? Ma'am, what's going on out there? You saying a baby's missing and nobody...
As well as nonprofit organizations.
When I was a private investigator 5 years ago, we picked up a case that was Shanice Harris' case.
That help and advocate families of lost loved ones with their closure.
From sometime from his shift at work to that next day, he was either robbed or apprehended at some point with someone coming into the restaurant.
And opening a cold case.
So that, to me, was his way out. And it negatively impacted Armani's investigation.
Please join me on Thursdays on any podcast platform wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are voiceless no more.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck
a lot.
Y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey, how are you?
Dylan, I am peachy.
You're doing good today.
I'm in a great mood. It's a beautiful day. I have no complaints.
Really?
0 complaints.
Wow.
What does that mean?
I'm just kidding.
I'm just great.
Just
how are
kidding.
you?
I'm doing wonderful. If I was doing what does the old timer say? I'm doing better than I deserve.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Well, every day that you wake up is a good day.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Dylan, before we get started, can I give a little shout out to my bestie?
I'll allow it.
It's her birthday weekend, so happy birthday, Julie.
Happy birthday, Julie.
We've lived apart for years now.
I know.
My bestie, like some hours away, so we don't get to spend a lot of time together, and I was able to spend her birthday with her.
Yeah.
So that was really special, and I'm glad I got to hang out with her.
Yeah, I agree. And you've just been so happy to get to hang with your bestie without one of you having to rush or leave the in a few hours or the next day or whatever. And I've really enjoyed you being around your little friend.
Well, 30 years of friendship, that's a long time.
I don't have any 30-year friends.
Kind of really get to know someone after 30 years.
Well, yeah. They know you better than anyone.
But I have to say, Dylan, we watched, my bestie and I went to her house. I made her chicken piccata for dinner.
I'm going to take issue with what you're about to say because I'm hurt.
And we watched Quiet on the Set, all 4 episodes. We couldn't, we were going to maybe just watch an episode.
Right.
But we got so invested, we had to watch the entire series. Wow.
You were supposed to watch that with me.
Well, you're going to watch it because we have to discuss this on a Patreon episode.
Yes. I've been wanting to watch it. I'm going to likely watch it this evening because we have to talk about it.
It's disturbing.
Everyone's talking about it. Is a huge deal. And I'm just blown away that the other adults around who may have had suspicions or ideas, it's like everybody kept their mouths shut just because they didn't want to lose their job. Or they didn't want to lose prestige or, upward mobility in the industry.
There are so many elements of the documentary that are just disturbing. And, we're 90s kids. I mean, we were born in the 80s. We kind of came up in the 90s. And a lot of the shows, especially some of the early on shows like All That, Salute Your Shorts, things like that. We grew up watching those. At least, I mean, I did.
I watched everything mentioned in that series and around these people involved. I watched all those shows.
Well, I was going to say your kids were probably watching like the Amanda Show.
Right.
And iCarly.
iCarly, yes. That was
because
a big
that
one.
was like things my kids were
But
watching.
it was still happening.
But to know, I mean, it's like it almost sort of, I don't want to say it ruins childhood, but in a way, I don't know. Afterwards, I just felt really icky after I watched this documentary.
Well, I gotta say, just even before this doc came out, you started seeing these old videos of Ariana Grande. And
oh man, those videos are not okay.
A couple of the stars big stars of the shows that back in the day had come out. Let's see, it wasn't iCarly, but her friend, I think Sam.
Jeanette McCurdy
has been very
well, she
vocal.
wrote the book.
Okay.
I'm Glad My Mom Died. I think it's what it's called.
Oh.
I've listened to that audiobook. It's wow. I mean, she says a lot.
So, but
definitely worth a listen.
As a child or as a young person, I didn't catch the innuendos.
Well, no, none of us did.
The obvious innuendos in these things.
No, but when you're watching as an adult,
it makes me feel
and
disgusting.
Especially as a parent, you're like, what the fuck?
It makes me want to take a shower afterwards because I feel like I'm coated in filth.
Like I said, it was icky. Like it gave me icky feelings for sure.
Well, I'm sure many of our listeners have already seen this disturbing documentary, and I can't wait to get caught up with you. I am glad you got to share some fun time. I know you and your bestie love this type of thing. Love watching true crime and such. So I'm glad you had fun doing that. But we got to discuss it.
Dylan, you've got a birthday coming up.
You keep saying that.
Not to interrupt you, but you're going to be a birthday boy here in a week.
No.
1 week, baby.
I don't think so.
Yep.
No. I've decided 45 is the age I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
Okay. Well, you're the most handsome 45-year-old I've ever met.
Ooh, baby,
yeah.
Baby. I have to say,
I find the older you get, the more I like you.
Yeah, I'm like old big cheese.
I like all that gray in your hair.
You do?
Yeah.
I've
got a thing for silver foxes. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, this girl's hot for Steve Martin as a young girl.
Yeah, as a kid, I thought he was hot because he's funny and he's kind of sexy. Yeah,
and,
Steve Martin.
I have not noticed any of the gray you keep mentioning on my beard and hair. I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
And I think I'm gonna get some.
Maybe
of that.
you need to take a mirror out in the sunlight.
I'm kidding. I have seen it. Some people have are bothered by aging, but it doesn't bother me because, well, for one, I feel like I'm 18 years old.
Well, I'm bothered by aging, but I think there's a lot of pressures on women in society. You get to a certain age and you're like dismissed.
My body doesn't feel 18 years old.
No, my body feels like 100 years old.
But in my mind, I feel like I'm a young person still. I mean, it's weird. I can't explain it.
A month or so ago, before we left on our big adventure, I had to go to a spine doctor, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we talked about this. I had some sort of pinched nerve, and then I fell, and it was a whole thing. So I go to the spine doctor, and he says to me, your x-ray looks pretty good, like for someone your age. But you do have some arthritis, but for someone your age, it looks good.
It's
and that
normal.
made me feel so bad. I was like, for someone my age,
arthritis, and for someone your age,
yes.
It's normal was all one sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, baby, I'm sorry about that.
Made me feel great. And so,
Are we geriatric?
Yeah, probably. And, we'll get to our episode here in a minute, but, it's nice to bullshit a little bit before we get started. I have a bad habit of dyeing my hair, and I think anyone who's ever followed our social media knows every time we post a picture, my hair's a different color.
She dyes her hair a lot.
I'm like a serial hair dyer, right?
You are. Sally loves you.
Man, I should own some stock in like Arctic Fox and Lime Crime. But anywho, I had a bit of a hair disaster. Did not turn out, and I'd already kind of fucked it up, and it was like pretty fried. And I decided to just shave my head, which I did this during COVID. I shaved my head and let it grow back out, and I grew it into a mohawk, right?
Yeah.
So I've decided I just shaved my head. I'm going to start fresh. And my bestie and I were talking last night about, she was like, are you going to grow it back out like into your natural color, which is blonde?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm actually kind of scared to grow my hair out into its natural color because one, what if it's no longer blonde? Like, what if it grows out and it's like
What do you think it's gonna be, purple?
Like way darker, and I don't look like myself. Or I don't recognize myself because I'm like, what is this darker hair color, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Or what if it grows out and I'm like, what if I grow out and I have like a bunch of grays that I wasn't expecting?
Oh, my gosh. Come on. It'd be cute.
I don't know.
Baby.
Again, I do have feelings about getting older.
About
aging.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But, you keep making me go around and adult and do responsible stuff.
I'm proud of you. You've been adulting quite well lately.
I've been adulting in a row.
Y'all, he got a physical Social Security card,
which I haven't had for years.
We actually opened up a joint checking account. High five, Dylan.
Yeah.
We've been married nearly 6 years, and this is the first time we've shared a checking account.
Well, here's the thing.
I do feel like we are making strides in our 40s towards being adults.
We've always shared money.
40 is the new 20, right?
That's true. But we've always shared our money. We've never, some couples, and you get to do it how you want. They keep their finances separate. You have yours, I have mine. I pay this, you pay that.
I have mine, I have yours too.
Yeah. Or
that's how it works.
Some versions of this is she or he has a debit card that goes to your joint checking where all of your paycheck goes. But then they'll be like, I'm going to take you out to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
With the debit card.
Or it can work like it's my money and I give you an allowance.
Yes.
Which seems to work well for us. I can't just let you be willy-nilly spending.
So, no, we've always put all the money together.
Next thing I know, you're going to have a bunch of Tonka trucks or something.
But we've never actually took the time, because it involves adulting, of sitting down somewhere and making an actual joint checking together.
Are we sitting down or sitting down?
Sitting down. Okay. Sit down. Just
whatever.
Cop a squat. Cop a squat. But yeah, so now we have a joint checking account. I have a Social Security card again. This is crazy, folks.
It's like Dylan's a full-grown adult.
Almost.
And it only took you to be 45 years old 2 times in a row to make this happen. Anyway, happy birthday, Dylan.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move along. We have a fantastic episode in that we just are going to conclude part 2 of Dr. Michelle Thier. This story, Dylan, I've added a lot of detail. I mean, this probably could have been trimmed down to a 1-parter, but it's just, this story blew my mind so much that we had to talk about all the details.
Well, I really enjoyed the first part. There was a lot of information there, but I got to say, I thought it was a great story because honestly, I didn't realize that we had recorded that long of an episode because I was kind of caught up in the story. So I've been waiting all week for the second part. We've bullshitted enough.
Let's get into it, Dylan. Because this crime story, I mean, it's just so tragic. And the betrayal, it's so messed up.
Oh my God.
It's messy. Dr. Michelle Thier, I'm just going to say it. She's a messy bitch.
Oh, you're going to say she's some shit.
She's a messy bitch, Dylan.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we concluded last episode with John Diamond reporting the gun was stolen from his Firebird.
The teal Firebird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Now, Peyton Donald, an Army sergeant at Fort Bragg, would prove to be one of the police's most valuable witnesses. On February 12th, as Michelle and John were driving back from Florida, the Army CID, which is the Criminal Investigation Division, told Donald that Fayetteville Police Department wanted to speak with him. Donald told them he knew little about John's personal life, but he had met Michelle. He knew Michelle was married to an Air Force officer, but had only met her once at a barbecue restaurant. Peyton Donald told law enforcement that he owned a 9mm Smith & Wesson. Now, at first, Donald told investigators the gun never left his possession, but when they asked to see it, he changed his story. He then tells them he had loaned the gun to his friend, John Diamond.
I just don't loan out guns. I'm not going to do that.
You're not going to loan out a gun?
No. I mean, I know buddies, trade guns back and forth and stuff like that. But I'm honestly, I'm all for gun ownership. We have
responsible gun ownership. Yes, absolutely.
We picked up a firearm.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I respect guns. They kind of scare me. You know what I'm saying? I don't leave them sitting out. I don't play with them. I don't take them out and show them to people. So I would never, ever just loan one out to a friend.
Again, it's responsible gun ownership.
Well, yeah, what if they kill somebody with it?
Well, admitting that John had the gun on December 17th of 2000 when Marty Thier was killed, Diamond returned it a few days later, then borrowed it again. Donald never said why John had wanted the gun once more. Donald told police he wasn't worried about the gun because he trusted his friend John Diamond. When Peyton Donald called John Diamond to inquire about the gun, he told his friend it was because Fayetteville police wanted to see it. John told his friend the gun was no longer in his possession.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Your buddy borrows the gun a time or two, or whatever, and then he wants it back, and it's because the police want to check the ballistics on it, or see, why do the police want to see my gun?
Well, now here's the thing. Okay, let's just say John Diamond had borrowed this gun, and it was in his vehicle, and the story is true. Someone has broken into this vehicle, and they've stolen the gun.
Well,
that is equally not okay.
No.
Because a crime could be committed with that gun.
Right. And I don't have my gun, which they're expensive.
And it's irresponsible to keep the gun in a car, not locked in a safe or something, you know.
Now, not saying I believe John Diamond, but guns are highly sought after things to steal.
Yes.
I mean, they're right there with jewelry, cash money, and guns because they hold their value. They're easy to get off, you know, all that. So it's not.
They're easy to get off.
They're easy to
like fence.
Oh, trade out.
I thought you were over here stroking the gun. I was like, oh, the gun's easy to get off, huh?
Damn.
See, my mind races. I'm sorry.
Damn, girl. I thought we was gonna bring some class to the podcast. You told me not.
Class to the podcast.
Yeah, but so it's not.
Whatever, dude. We got that 1-star review recently that said we're pretty backwoods. All right.
Okay.
I'm backwoods. Ain't no class up in here.
So it's not beyond the realm of possibility for someone to break into his car and steal a gun, let alone if you're leaving it laying out in plain sight or something like that. But in situations like this, somebody stole it, you typically don't believe it.
At some point, officers informed Peyton Donald that the gun is the same kind that was used to kill Marty Thier. After 3 phone calls, it was obvious that John Diamond wasn't going to reveal anything to his friend about the missing weapon. So the Fayetteville police want Peyton Donald to call John. They want to record the conversation and see if he will admit to anything over the phone. Now, when investigators were about to end the interview with Peyton Donald, John calls saying he had the gun and he would return it to Donald very soon.
Oh, gosh.
Now, an hour later, military police at Fort Bragg get that phone call reporting the car break-in.
An hour later?
So this is so convenient. Yes.
Oh, no, yeah. That's a damn lie.
The gun had been stolen, and according to John, the car had been parked on base for 4 days, and when he returned to base to pick up his car, the window was broken and these items were missing. The military police were knowledgeable about the smash and grab car break-ins at Fort Bragg, which seemed to be, sadly, not uncommon.
Okay.
Right, this happened quite a bit. They were familiar with it. And they said this one did not fit the pattern. Glass was broken on the passenger seat and floor, but not the driver's seat. And typically, these break-ins leave a mess. If anything, it looked like the door was open when the window was broken, showing evidence that this was a fake break-in.
I don't want to make a mess in my car when I fake break this window, so let me open the door.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is true. When you have cops, investigators, whatever, they see the little things, like when a burglary staged. To the lay person, it may look like, hey, because you know every time someone stages a burgle, they just make a mess. They just take drawers out and dump them. But a real professional burglar, I can't say the word, doesn't do like that. They don't just dump. They don't just trash the house. They go through the house methodically. They may leave drawers open and things like that, but they're truly just looking for valuables. They want to be quick. They don't want to make noise. You know what I mean? They don't go in there throwing dressers across the room. You know what I'm saying? And so in our mind, when you fake one, you think it looks good, but a seasoned investigator can instantly, there's the little things, they know it's not real.
By telling the military police about the stolen handgun, John was admitting to a violation of the Military Code of Ethics, Article 92, which is failure to obey an order by possessing a privately owned gun on base.
Wow. I never thought about that. The rules on that.
John was handcuffed. Now, while he is being arrested for, this, he's called the MPs to come check out this break-in, right? Then he admits, hey, I had a gun here, and it's been stolen. They handcuff him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that's a violation.
Well, the MPs aren't going to play around
That's
with
a
you.
violation of base rules, basically.
It's a violation of the Military Code of Ethics.
You're not allowed to have a personal firearm.
Now, while John is being handcuffed, a woman drives up in a Honda. Now, at the time, the MPs knew nothing about this murder investigation or that it was Dr. Michelle Thier driving a borrowed Honda. They just assumed this was John's wife.
And they had no idea that she has a master's in psychology either.
Or that she's a scientist.
I'm sorry, she's a scientist.
Members of the Criminal Investigation Division were watching this arrest unfold from a distance. When they hear the name John Diamond being reported over the MP's radios.
His mama called down there and said, I heard your name on the scanner, John. Are you okay?
Yes. Somebody's CID mama was like,
Mama.
So they're watching from a distance as he's being arrested by MPs. They see Michelle drive up in the Honda, and they know who Michelle is.
This is
right?
pretty amazing that they're actually watching this unfold.
So when they take John in to do an interview with him, the MPs, a special agent was sent in to finish the interview with John Diamond. And Sergeant Klinkstell from the Fayetteville Police Department is contacted, and he also listens in on this interview.
What?
Now, John Diamond, during this interview, lies to the Army about his relationship with Michelle, claiming it is platonic. He didn't tell them about the affair or how they had met online. He complained that despite an alibi, police were treating him like he was a criminal.
Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. So this is amazing. So he thinks that these two the military,
these two
entities, civilian and military, are insular. They're separated.
Yes,
and they're not going to be working together. But this is fascinating. Not only are they're collaborating, everyone involved who has a dog in this fight in any form or fashion is privy to what he's saying almost in real time as he's lying to these other investigators. So this is amazing. I bet John thought he was doing something, but the whole time they're just behind the mirrored glass, if you will.
Well, again, I think this just goes to show that Michelle, especially, and John truly believe they are smarter than police.
Well, she's a scientist.
And that they can outsmart and that they can manipulate and they can control the situation.
He has a porn name. She's a scientist with a master's in psychology. I mean, who can stop these people? This is a power couple.
It's unstoppable. It's like if T-Rex had longer arms. Now, John accuses the police of harassing his wife, Lourdes, and added that investigators said Michelle whores around a bit. So these are the things he's telling the military police.
Just a little bit. She just does a little bit.
She whores around, but it's just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Diamond told the agent, the special investigative agent, quote, "If your spouse cheats on you, then you must not be doing what you're supposed to do in the first place." Almost like victim blaming Marty Thier.
He's claiming Marty's not handling his business.
Yeah.
Which that's a really stupid thing to say.
Because you can be handling your business. Look, you can't control what other people do.
Look,
you can still be handling your business and have your partner cheat on you.
Exactly.
So that's ridiculous.
That's a ridiculous thing to say. It's some bullshit justification or reasoning he uses in his own mind to be carrying on like this with a married woman.
Well, they determined that John's account of the break-in was untrue, that it was a fabricated break-in. They had faked it, right? I mean, through this interview,
right?
The MPs, Fayetteville Police, the CID, they're all just like, yeah, we don't believe you.
They're not even wondering about it.
And now They have John on record. He's lying to the MPs. He's leaving out details. So we're getting these untruths from him. And they also have his friend Peyton Donald's statements regarding the gun. Yeah. So a former Army soldier who happened to be Michelle's neighbor turned on her. He calls the OSI, which is the Office of Special Investigations, to report that an Army sergeant had been visiting the widower daily. The man agreed to cooperate with the investigation because he sees this and he's like, he has a bad feeling about this. He's like, this woman's husband was just murdered, and now all of a sudden she's chummy chum, got this Army guy coming over to her house every day.
Why do people they never seem to think this looks bad, or at the very least it's rude, if you will. You know what I'm saying? To bring the other person in, who, no matter who it is, right after their loved one
Yeah, your
dies.
husband's been dead for just a few weeks.
He's been murdered,
and you already are shacking up with somebody else.
It was a traumatic scenario.
Yeah,
You're upstairs.
It's just not going to sit right with most people.
Yeah. You had this horrible situation, trauma, lost your husband, watched him bleed out, basically. But you can't even wait a week before you're swapping left. I mean, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it always makes me think, and I always know that person was in their life before their loved one died. That's how it happens that quick. I'm sorry. That's the only way.
I think so. Intelligence-grade video cameras were installed on this neighbor's property, which pointed at Michelle's house. So they're getting a full view of Michelle's home and all of the activity, all the comings and goings at this house.
Wow. That's awesome.
One of the videos captured the pair returning from Florida. So before they even report this car break-in, this man had called and said, hey, this seems suspicious. This seems sus, as the kids say.
Damn.
Guess what, Dylan? They captured John's car when they returned from Florida before the break-in, just hours, like an hour before this car break-in happens. They captured John's car at Michelle's home, and guess what? The window was not smashed.
And it was not parked on base for 4 days, the last 4 days, because he's out driving it around.
Well, I don't know if he had picked it up from the base and then had driven over to Michelle's house and then was going to go park it back on the base.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he got this call from his friend Peyton Donald. They want the gun. So quick, Michelle and John have to stage a break-in.
Right, but
right?
He claimed, maybe I misheard, but I thought he claimed it had been parked on base for 4 days,
absolutely.
And then he came back and checked it.
Right, so I'm not sure if it maybe had been parked for the 4 days. He had picked it up, driven it to Michelle's house. They, they have a sit down.
They came and they gone.
They confer about it.
They came and went.
Yeah.
Oh, so at the very least, this is evidence that
there was no break-in.
A matter of hours.
It supports the initial theory that John had staged the break-in.
That John is a damn lie.
Yes. Now, the day after the CID interview, I'll just say CID. It's the Criminal Investigation.
It's a kid.
The CID interview, John didn't show up for his command's scheduled PT, which is the physical, like their physical training. Now, typically, there's a group PT session with your command, let's say 7 a.m., 6 a.m., what have you. And that's an official duty, so you better show up for that.
You better be there.
You better make the muster. And he did not. So his commander puts out word for everyone to look for him. Now, John Diamond shows up 7 hours later explaining that he had been speaking to CID. But the truth is, they hadn't been with him. And CID quickly says, nope, he wasn't meeting with us. So John was considered AWOL.
Why does John think...
For the 7 hours that he was unaccounted for.
Why does he think that no one speaks to anyone else? I mean, does he really think that people are that no one's going to double check his bullshit excuses?
I think he just thinks he's so charming, he's going to get away with this
he
shit.
thinks he's going to smolder his way out of this?
I reckon so, Dylan.
I could do that.
No, you couldn't.
Yeah, I could.
It don't work on me, bud.
And that's because you're immune to my smoldering.
I am immune to your smolder.
I'm smoldering the whole time we've been recording. You won't even look at me.
Now, John is seen as a flight risk. So The military orders John to remain on the post, like on the base, under close supervision.
So he's like a step away from being in the clink, in jail.
Yeah, like being on a
basically.
restriction
Yeah.
of sorts.
I mean, he's actually...
I mean, they order him like, you are not to leave base.
Right, and they probably told the gate guys, don't let this guy leave. I mean, so he's basically on house arrest on the base.
But guess what, Dylan?
You can't tell John Diamond nothing.
No, because he disappears again.
Oh my God, is he a magician?
He's Houdini.
He's Houdini because he's a hoe.
He's Houdini.
Let's be honest.
He's David Copperfield.
Dude, hey, that's a good
You
one.
like that?
Yeah. Chris Dangle.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
All right. So he disappears again. He just poof, he's gone. Now, members.
David Copperfield, dude.
Yeah, you like that? Now, members of his unit are tasked with searching for him.
Oh, wow.
So they're out on the base. They're trying to find John Diamond. And they find him about 100 yards away in the North Carolina woods in a spot where it's pretty obvious he's trying to hide.
Was he in a ghillie suit? I mean, is this
Maybe.
guy-
I don't know.
John.
He's just climbed up a tree.
This is his big plan, to go hide 100 yards away from a place where people are trained to, search and find people and
Snuff
stuff.
you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of soldiers over there. They'll never be able to get organized and look for me.
Army Rangers.
What the fuck, dude? Oh, John.
Army Rangers
Yeah.
in your unit.
Yeah, your
special forces.
Your special forces unit, who know you inside and out and are some of the most highly skilled soldiers in the world, might go walk at least 100 yards to check for you, John.
Now, Dylan, you know where my unit would have been able to find me?
What?
At the food court. I'd been down at the PX.
Like, I seen her down there at the food court with a corn dog.
I would have been down, at the exchange at the food court.
Yeah.
They'd be like, that bitch had a Taco Bell and a Pizza Hut. What's she doing?
They would find me sitting and looking somewhere.
On the toilet. They'd find you in a latrine somewhere.
Tomorrow, why didn't we look here first?
They'd be like, Dylan's in the head all day.
Well, it's comfortable.
You were missing for 7 hours, and Dylan's like, you just don't even know, man. I had curry last night.
Yeah, and they would be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
they'd believe me because it'd
yes,
be true.
They would. So he was returned to the barracks, and this time he's placed on restriction, which means he can't go to his college classes. He's not allowed to contact Michelle. He is being held in this barracks with no contact with the outside world.
Okay.
And he's not allowed to leave the barracks.
John's not done anything to help his situation. He's made every wrong choice.
Michelle was convinced the police were keeping them apart in order to manipulate them and turn them against each other. And the more the pair were together, the more Fayetteville police's incompetence showed. Now, she's noting this in her little summary timeline, her little dream date diary.
Her synopsis
her
of
little
this
John
whole
Diamond
situation.
dream date diary.
After all, she's a scientist, so she's probably keeping very detailed notes.
Well, she needs to.
There's a big inflow of data that she has to notate.
It's all part of the scientific method.
It is. And once she applied the scientific method to this situation, she knows exactly what to do now.
I hypothesized.
She photosynthesis that she might not tell the truth.
I hypothesized, Michelle, that you's a hoe. I said that you's a hoe.
And then the evidence is in. We've done a double-blind study, and the data proves that you are indeed a hoe.
DNA tests say you 100% that bitch. You a hoe.
You
Okay.
a thought.
All right. Yes. Okay. Enough of slut-shaming Michelle. Now, Michelle had also kept secret that in September, Dylan, before Marty had even, passed away, she had applied for a job at the Saba University School of Medicine in the Caribbean. She applied after moving back in with Marty. Because remember, they had their break.
Right.
They got back together. They're going to make things work in the marriage. And she's applying for a job in the Caribbean.
That doesn't add up.
On the application, Dylan, Michelle indicated she was single.
Oh, dude.
Michelle had told the university she had a fiance who was interested in possibly getting an undergraduate degree at the university. And his name was, can you guess?
John Diamond.
Yeah. The old snake charmer himself. She sent information about his coursework at Methodist University, forwarded that information on to this university where she's applying. So by the fall of 2000, Michelle and John were calling each other fiance, not only on this application, but just in general. He has Michelle listed the same on his financial aid application. On his FAFSA form, he lists Michelle as his fiance.
Okay.
He was doing so well in his psychology class that when someone asked about it, and they're like, wow, John, you're really killing it this semester. You're acing this class. You seem to know all the answers. John said, quote, well, my fiance is a psychologist.
Oh, so I just get her to do my homework for me.
But he's telling people.
Yeah. His wife.
His fiance.
His fiance.
Oh, though he's married.
Yeah, she's a widower.
To Lourdes.
Right.
Now, John had also emailed a Saba dive shop about procuring a job as a diver. And in this email, he discusses that his fiance is interviewing at the University School of Medicine, and he's a trained military diver, and he would love to possibly come work for them.
I mean, who the hell brings their husband, wife, fiance, partner, whatever, into so many job interviews? I mean, these people, it's like they lead with, I would like to get this job, but maybe you can get my fiance a job too, I mean, that seems weird to me.
I mean, I'm not sure the angle. Maybe Michelle was trying to be like, hey, look, I'm all in this. Even my fiance's on board. We're dedicated. We want to come here. We can offer your community XYZ. I mean, I don't know.
Yes, Michelle. Yes, we're aware you have a fiance. And I see here that you applied for our position that we posted of town scientist.
Maybe she's just one of those silly women that wants to go around letting everybody know, I have a fiance. Maybe she just likes to say the word.
So, some people be like...
bitch, you already got a husband. How you got a fiance and a husband at the same time?
Some people be engaged for 5 years and shit. I was engaged for a long time.
How long?
20 years.
You were engaged for 20 years?
No, I just wasn't going to marry that hoe. Oh, sorry. Meth rat. That's what, we decided that was her name now.
Okay. Moving along from Meth Rat. Meth Rat's a fan. Meth Rat be listening every time. Even when you make fun of her, it makes her day. So.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry. I know that was a listener's handle, which is a great handle.
No, I'm saying, Meth Rat be listening.
Oh, the real Meth Rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We know she's a fan.
Hey, girl.
You still ugly. Okay, so John and Michelle, and you need to get a job, broke bitch. Oh. Now, John and Michelle arrived in Saba on October 18th. So this is while she's still living with Marty. She goes to this job interview and takes John with her, and she's still living with her husband.
It's so
who
gross.
Knows nothing of this situation.
It's so disgusting. I just don't know how you can go. I could never look in your eyes.
And we're skipping around a little bit, but I just want to, reiterate this relationship that was just casual sex.
Right.
This is how casual it was, Dylan.
This doesn't seem casual at all.
Right.
I mean, you can't even go to a job interview without me.
What can I say? I'm codependent. Now, John and Michelle arrived in Saba on October 18th. Michelle introduced John to the various school deans that are meeting with her, to their wives as her fiance. They go to this dinner. So Michelle and John go to dinner with some of the deans of the School of Medicine, in her department, the department heads, that kind of thing. And people at the meal kind of felt they were a mismatched couple, they will later say. While John was charming and kind of the life of the party, one of them described Michelle as seeming kind of dumpy.
Ugh.
Which I think means maybe she didn't have as much personality as John.
Well, and maybe if Michelle wasn't such an obvious asshole, I would say that maybe she just has a personality you don't understand, because, I think dumpy's kind of a rude way to describe, especially a woman, personally. I think it has is it connotations?
Connotations.
It has connotations of, I don't know, You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a school marm, dumpy, maybe not as attractive. I don't know.
Okay, well, I took it as maybe she just had a dumpy, like, woe's me, or Eeyore, like a wet mop kind of personality.
God, some people have.
They're like, it's not nice to describe women that, but you calling you ex to meth rat.
Them's facts, bro. I don't make up truths. All right, that's just how the world works.
It's okay when you hate somebody.
Well, no, it's okay.
Okay, so, they're like, okay, so this guy John's really outgoing and whatever, and then Michelle just seems kind of dumpy. And I just think maybe she just doesn't have a whole lot of personality.
Right.
They're kind of like not maybe impressed with her. She doesn't have the outgoing personality.
So I got to say, she must be applying for a fairly prestigious position here at this school. I mean, if they're having these dinners and you're getting to meet all the deans and stuff like that.
Right. Yet they did seem to be in love, Michelle and John. They also, some of these deans would later say that John seemed more eager about moving to the island than Michelle. Like, he seemed really enthusiastic about it and was, talking about all the things he couldn't wait to do while he was there. And Michelle just seemed kind of like, eh. And they noted that because they're like, well, do we want to hire someone who seems kind of blah about moving here?
Do they even want to be here?
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, you move to an island. That's kind of a pretty big,
a small island.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, you've got to be ready to live a certain kind of life.
I'm ready to move there.
Well, I know.
I'm ready to move there. They can hire me. I'm not a scientist, right?
Are you sure about it?
But I'm enthusiastic about moving to your island.
Heather, you're a podcast scientist.
When the interviewing dean mentioned that he had worked as a prosecutor for 14 years in California, formerly before having, moved to the island, John's charm seemed to taper off, and people noticed this. And after the interview was concluded and they had their little trip there to the island, Michelle booked a room for the couple to spend 3 days in St. Martin, and she booked it under the name Mr. and Mrs. Thier.
So John was almost visibly shaken.
Yes.
When this dean's talking about having been a prosecutor for years in California.
Yes.
Enough so that people noticed. That's pretty strange.
Yeah, they thought it was kind of weird.
Like only a criminal would act like that to someone saying that, right? I mean, that's what I would think.
Okay, so back to our current situation. After John is placed on restriction, they quietly moved him to the Brig, which is the military prison, at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. So they move him from Fort Bragg to Camp Lejeune, and they do this quietly, so not to alert the press, and so nobody really knows where he is, including Michelle.
Right.
And she won't be able to access him.
Now they got him on lockdown now.
Yeah. John's journey through the military justice system was beginning. In considering flight risk, the military determined John's behavior had grown more erratic. It was decided that John would remain in the military jail for 120 days without official charges being filed.
The military can do that, but
they can just put you, yeah, they can. It's very different than the way the civilian court. You don't have as many liberties.
Right.
Freedoms when you're in the military. They own you.
Right, because you made this pledge and you have this code of ethics and all these rules, and it's a big deal. Just like they don't play around with child support. You're going to pay your child support. They don't really like cheating and adultery. They don't, in all the stories we've talked about and just talking to you, they don't play around with that. That's a big deal. And so they almost sometimes hold you to account in a better way than the civilian courts.
At times.
That was a very succinct and very clear statement.
At times they do, Dylan.
Sometimes.
I'm not going to say across the board, but yes. Now, if charges were filed, John would wait in jail another 21 days until an Article 32 hearing was held, which is like a preliminary hearing. And this would be on the adultery and weapons charges. Now, during this time, he was unable to communicate with Michelle. But Michelle kept in close contact with John's sister, Deborah, who was on the approved visitor list. His family was shocked to learn of John's arrest and these allegations against him. John desperately tried to find creative ways to get Michelle on his visitors list, including adding her as his family psychologist. This was denied.
No, but she's not just my fiance. She's my proctologist, bud. The family psychologist. Who the hell? What families have a damn psychologist? Everybody just on call. I have a psychologist on retainer.
Rumors swirled with each passing day. Life in Fayetteville was becoming awkward for Michelle. Everybody's talking about her. They're whispering. These details of this affair and whatever are starting to kind of make their way around. Even so that like her neighbors are like, ooh.
Lots of juicy tea flowing.
Right. So, she's just, and she already doesn't really like being there and hasn't ever really settled into life in Fayetteville. So it's just, she's not living her La Vida Loca, Dylan. She also wasn't being paid from the life insurance company. She was expecting this $500,000 payout, and it's not coming.
That's because they're probably holding on to it until the investigation's done, bud.
So guess what Michelle does when she doesn't have this extra money coming in, Dylan? Under her maiden name of Forcier, she sells Marty's personal belongings on eBay.
So disgusting. That doesn't surprise me with Michelle. She's gross.
2 Army friends named Ricky Bison and John Pickett, these are John's buddies. They tell investigators that on December 16th, just days before Marty's murder, John had used their phone to call Michelle from the barracks. John later told these friends that he was really upset because Marty had sexually assaulted Michelle.
Okay, so he's mad now.
The men said they would beat him up. Like, if this was my girlfriend and this is what a guy did to her, I would beat him up.
Yeah, if that was my fiance living with her married husband,
I would beat him up. But John said he needed to find someone to kill Marty. So as the men are telling investigators this, they agree to turn over a computer to investigators, and it was one that John had used a few times to email Michelle. So everybody's spilling the tea, Dylan.
Well, I don't blame them because something's rotten in Denmark. Something here is not right. And after the fact of him being murdered, I'm sure a lot of people, those little things of small suspicions, now you have no doubt, yeah?
The case against John was now complete. 1 week after interviews with the Army buddies, the Public Information Office of the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg announced that Sergeant John Diamond, was being held in military jail in the murder of Captain Marty Thier as part of the investigation. It was the first official word that John Diamond was the prime suspect. Now, he's not being charged with murder, but he is being held as part of the murder investigation.
Right. Again, military.
They can do this.
They can do this.
Michelle, who normally shunned the newspaper, because if you remember, she had cussed out the editor about Marty's obituary.
Yeah.
I will never buy this rag again.
And I'm sure they were devastated by that news.
Yes. She told the newspaper, quote, "There have been a lot of lies and a lot of misinformation going around. I prefer to keep my private life private right now." And she called her relationship with John Diamond a friendship and said, quote, "Marty's death had turned my life upside down." On March 14th, it was announced that John was being officially charged in Marty's murder. John's civilian attorney, Coy Brewer, told the media that his client, quote, "unequivocally denies his guilt of these offense charges." It was noted in the media reporting that John's ex-wife could provide an alibi in court. So Brewer's running with this. He has an alibi. My client has an alibi. According to John's sister, Deborah, Michelle was livid, especially when she was named as a co-conspirator in the Army's charges.
Damn.
Michelle told Deborah, John's sister, that she would kill herself or run away, and that she planned to maybe go to Louisiana where her father lived because it was closer to Mexico. Dr. Harbin, now if you remember, he is Michelle's employer, he told investigators another bit of information during this time. He said that back in the spring, before Marty's murder, Michelle said she had gotten pregnant with Marty's child. Michelle had gone to Charlotte, North Carolina for an abortion. In June or July of 2000, Michelle told Dr. Harbin that she was waiting for Marty to get his reenlistment bonus, which could be anything from $60,000 to $200,000.
Damn.
So that she could get her share of that money.
That's a huge enlistment
So that
bonus.
sounds like Michelle was just trying to get back together with Marty so she could get her hands on this enlistment bonus. Michelle also confessed to Dr. Harbin about applying for a job in the Caribbean. When Michelle learned that Dr. Harbin was cooperating with police, she quit her job and stormed out of the office, warning him that if things went badly for her, it would, quote, be on my head, he said.
Damn. She knows how to make an exit.
Police were able to obtain a search warrant for Michelle Thier's home based on all of this information, and they seized a laptop and a desktop computer, floppy disks, notes and letters, a will, and various photographs. It branded Michelle as, well, a bit of a slut.
I was going to say.
And a murderer.
A murderous thought.
Yes. Many friends and some family abandoned her following the release of information, and Marty's mother, who had supported Michelle throughout, was now estranged from her. Michelle sent a 24-page handwritten letter to Linda, Marty's mom, trying to sort things out. When Linda called Michelle, as the letter requested, Michelle turned on the woman, saying that she had, quote, wrecked everything.
What?
So she writes a letter to the mother-in-law. When the mother-in-law obliges by calling her back as she's requested, then Michelle turns on her, starts cussing her out.
That makes total sense.
Michelle has a personality disorder or something. I mean, honestly, this is what this sounds like to me. This girl got some problems.
No, she truly does.
Michelle left a message later on Linda's machine accusing her of being passive-aggressive, and then blaming Marty for being unable to have a relationship because he was just like his mother.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, who the fuck does that?
You're just like your mom.
No wonder Marty and I couldn't have a relationship. He's just like you.
So it's like she writes this 24 pages of handwritten. That took a minute. Seemingly, trying to get back in her good graces, if you will, get her to support her, believe her. And as soon as Marty's mom reaches out to her, she just gives her all this bullshit. It's like she was trying to just wanting her to reach out so she could have an interaction with her.
Just so she could be a bitch?
Just so she could be a bitch.
I don't know.
It makes no sense, right?
Well, we can't rationalize some of this behavior, Dylan.
Irrational. You can't reason with unreasonable people.
Right.
I try to live by that.
I do too. Now, the state crime lab concluded the bullets used to kill Marty Thier were from a Smith & Wesson Model 639 or 5906 model, which was the model that John had borrowed from his friend Peyton Donald. That was the 5906 or the 5906 model, right? Michelle's gunshot residue test came back saying she had tested positive. But it could be explained because she had cradled Marty's head in her hands, and it was possible that this residue was transferred.
Okay.
So that is kind of an iffy bit of evidence, right?
All they know for sure is she had gunshot residue on her hand.
Yep.
They're not sure how it came to be there.
Right. John Diamond's family believed the charges against him were to put pressure on Michelle. They thought that perhaps investigators were trying to break him down. His legal fees were already starting to stack up to $30,000 at this point, which put a lot of pressure on John's working class family, but they refused to give up on him. An Article 32 hearing was finally held. This is the preliminary. And John was delivered a crippling blow. His wife, Lourdes, took the stand admitting she had lied about John's alibi because he had asked her to do so.
Damn.
John had watched The Patriot with his family, but dipped out before the credits rolled. Lourdes explained that he had gotten a phone call on his cell phone and left, and they didn't see him until the next morning. His mother-in-law had heard him come in during the early morning hours and heard the washing machine going. And the woman thought it was odd because who would wash clothes at that time?
Damn, dude. So no alibi. Reports of you coming in, after being gone all night, early hours of the morning, and you come straight in and start a load of wash.
He had told Lourdes that the evening before he had gone to the barracks. But when he phoned her later to tell her police wanted to talk to her, he was like, this is what you need to say to police. Like he fed her an alibi. After that, it was just one blow after another. The final nail was when the OSI agents played a video of John outside Michelle's house, which laid to waste his break-in story because the video showed his car window unsmashed just minutes before he reported someone breaking in.
They got so many witnesses and statements and just physical evidence as far as video and stuff like that. They don't even need to have a trial. Like, you're just guilty, bro. So we're not even going to waste people's time, bro.
The military prosecutor said, quote, soldiers kill out of necessity, but he was killing out of passion. The evidence was reviewed and higher ups would decide if John would be court-martialed. John's father told the newspaper that his son was feeling more confident than ever because there was no eyewitness, physical evidence, a co-conspirator's testimony, or any kind of confession. And at this point, Michelle had not been charged either, like in a civilian court. During this time, Michelle traveled to Los Angeles to visit her grandmother and also Vero Beach, Florida. Now, her family was worried because Michelle seemed to be compulsively spending money despite having no income and no insurance money. Her spending habits seemed to escalate along with her paranoia. So she's just buying shit left and right, even though she has no money.
A paranoid shopper is a very dangerous combination.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah, because the people are trying to come up and help them, and they think they're out to get them.
You're goofy. On May 26th, a memo was drafted that John would face a court-martial on the recommended charges, including murder. An across-the-board conviction would send him to prison for life without the possibility of parole. And now you have to remember, this is a court-martial. This is a military trial.
Right.
His trial would begin in 3 months, which left little time for John and his lawyers to prepare. There was only one wild card left for John, and that was Dr. Michelle Thier, the scientist.
Oh my gosh, she's a psycho-scientist.
David Copperfield's best friend.
God.
Michelle's 10-page timeline summary document. Remember, she's been keeping track, making all these little notes, right? It was found by computer forensic experts. And in it, she'd including some damaging statements about John, and some of the information was contradictory to what they had both told investigators.
No.
Yeah.
In her own notes. She can't even keep her lies straight from her own. This is what I'm talking about. How are you going to write down details that's going to basically prove that you're lying? And keep a record of it. I can't even keep a receipt from the cash register to walking out in my car. I've lost receipts.
I know.
That's a true story.
It's very true.
Important receipts.
Yes.
But here she's got them timelines and
how you lose your social security card. That's an important document.
It was stolen from me.
Sure it was.
It was stolen from me.
Well, maybe if it had in a safer spot, it wouldn't go.
It wasn't allowed to be, some people want to keep other people's papers. I've never understood that. Right? Like parents who don't.
Well, look.
Parents who don't want to give their kids their birth certificate and social security card and shit when they turn 18.
Well, look, if you're a meth rat, you need to line your cage with some papered goods.
Oh, okay.
Maybe she lined your cage with your social security card when she stole it. Moving along.
That's against the law to line a cage with a social security card. I know it is.
Look, Dylan.
Yeah.
Michelle's attorney claimed it was written for him. That was written for the attorney. This summary, this timeline. So it shouldn't be used in a hearing because this is a confidentiality between a lawyer and a client.
Okay.
But the military prosecution argued that Michelle was a licensed psychologist who she understood these confidentiality issues and would have clearly stated on the document this was a private communication with her lawyer because she had other documents on her computer related to her clients because she's a therapist, and they were clearly marked. So they're like, she would have written down this is a private document.
Well, I think that's a fair argument to make on their side, but I don't think that's bulletproof, that argument.
Well, there were some other things in there, like where she's speaking about her attorney, like in the third person. And they're like, why would you talk to the attorney about this if this is a document for the attorney?
Talk to you about this?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's better. That's a better argument than the other one, I think.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So at this time, Michelle had agreed to a long-term house-sitting situation in Vero Beach, Florida. It was with one of her former professors. She agreed to go stay at this house in Florida. And she seemed to be trying to start a new life there. She had taken back her maiden name, which was Forcier. Michelle had also started a new love life by meeting a man in a Florida bar and then spending 3 days with him at his mother's house.
That's her new fiance.
Yes. She had also applied for a psychology license in Florida, but hit a snag. Michelle was still under investigation for criminal wrongdoing in North Carolina, and there were rules in Florida against issuing licenses to criminal suspects.
I can't even believe Florida has that rule, but I'm glad.
Now, at John's trial, he pleads guilty to wrongfully transporting and storing a privately owned weapon in a privately owned vehicle, and also having an affair with Michelle, which was adultery and not okay by military standards, right? His attorney was hoping this would show the jury that John was a credible person and he wasn't wasting their time with charges he knew were true. Like, he's not trying to fight these, he's admitting, right? So he's got good character.
Oh, okay. That's a great game plan, bud. I would have pled guilty to loving the wrong woman. You know what I'm saying?
I would have pled guilty to loving an elevator.
Ooh.
Living it up while we were going down.
Oh, dude, that'd be great on the court record. Because could you imagine someone reading it years later like, wait, wasn't that Aerosmith lyrics?
Yes.
Strike those Aerosmith lyrics from the record, please.
I just walked up to her, Your Honor, and I said, if I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?
That is a good... Okay,
That's a Bellamy
That
Brothers
is
song.
a really great cheesy pickup line.
It's a Bellamy Brothers song.
Well, I'm just saying it's still a great line.
Moving along. John would then have to answer for the charges of murder, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. So his lawyer's like, bro, if you go in there and you confess to these things that are true, when you deny the other stuff, it's going to make you look like you're a trustworthy person because you're admitting wrongdoing on the things that you did, you know?
That's actually a pretty decent way to approach this from John's position, because basically his lawyer's like, you ain't got a lot of options here, dumbass. So what we're going to try to do is get the jury to at least believe you in part of this bullshit that you're telling them. So it's not actually, I think the lawyer's doing the best they can with what they have to work with.
After accepting this guilty plea, John's trial began for the other charges, the more serious charges. You know what I'm saying? The murder charges, Dylan.
Yeah. It's just murder.
Evidence was presented, including how Michelle had called John from the Raleigh restaurant where she was dining with Marty in the hours before he was killed.
Okay. That's pretty strong evidence.
The police interviews, ballistics on the murder weapon, of course, the details of the affair, and these plans for the couple to move to the Caribbean together. The fact they're calling each other, fiance. There's a $500,000 life insurance policy.
They went on trips to job interviews together.
Yeah. Now, John's attorney planted a reasonable doubt defense, telling the jury there was no physical evidence connecting John to the case. Dr. Michelle Thier would be brought in to testify. She said she had no intention of testifying and would invoke her Fifth Amendment right. She took the stand as what they called a hostile prosecution witness against John. Okay,
now... When a lawyer, you might not know the answer to this, but when a lawyer says permission to, if you put a client up there or a witness that's for your side, you treat them different than if they're from the opposing side. Is that right?
I don't know.
You ever
I'm
heard,
assuming so.
You ever heard him ask the judge for permission to, what is it, treat him like a hostile witness
so,
or
yeah.
something? And then it's almost like the whole tone and everything of questioning and everything. They can be more argumentative and things like that. So, yeah. If anyone out there knows the difference of that and you're just a lawyer or you're way smarter or a scientist.
You could ask your friend who's a lawyer.
I'll ask my friend, but also
when your good friend's a lawyer, you could ask him.
Any of our listeners, hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com and tell Dylan why.
Okay, well, Michelle's been really confident, arrogant throughout this whole ordeal, even a little bitchy to people. Right?
She just sounds like an asshole.
Well, when she takes the stand, Dylan, her voice is shaking. She's kind of gripping her hands together like she's nervous. For the first time, she seems pretty rattled, right? But Michelle refuses to answer questions. Like when they ask, did you know Marty Thier? She takes the fifth. And finally, the judge grows angry and tells her lawyer, quote, I don't understand how whether or not Mrs. Thier knows her husband can incriminate herself. So I don't see there's a bias to whether or not she knew her husband.
So basically the judge is saying she's wasting everyone's time. She's almost abusing the right to claim the fifth. Claim the fifth. Yeah.
So she does start to answer these questions that are like, about how she knows her husband and their marriage and when they got married and just some of the basic information, right?
Miss Weir, did you see the sun today when you got up?
So afterwards, when she does kind of start to answer some questions, she refuses to answer anything related to John Diamond.
Because that might incriminate
their
me.
relationship, whether they'd traveled together to the Caribbean.
In job interviews.
The only questions Michelle answered was that she worked for Harbin and Associates and that she attended her husband's funeral in Colorado. But otherwise, she's just stonewalling. Michelle Thier obviously was unwilling to testify at John's trial and by legal definition was considered unavailable. Michelle's timeline would deliver another blow to the defense. Witnesses, including members of Saba University who had interviewed Michelle and had met John the fiancé, and some of these professors that were working at Methodist College or Methodist University, also testified, saying that John referred to Michelle as his fiancé.
Okay.
The neighbor was brought to the stand and recalled John visiting Michelle every day.
This neighbor could not wait to get on the stand.
No.
This neighbor does not like Michelle.
No.
At all.
No. By now, as this trial is happening, this John's trial, she's distanced herself from John's family, including his sister Deborah, whom she had latched onto while he was in jail. So she got what she wanted out of Deborah, and now she's done with her.
Yeah.
John's wife / estranged wife, Lourdes, shattered John's alibi. She just decimated it on the stand.
Well, yeah, not only did she say he wasn't with me, she says that he, basically coached her into what to say to investigators that are going to contact you soon.
After 5 days of trial, the prosecution rested. To the surprise of John's family, his attorney, Coy Brewer, called just one witness, which was a canine officer who had tracked a scent to the golf course behind Michelle's office. So that's kind of weird, right? You're only bringing in one witness.
In a murder trial?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
In closing arguments, Brewer painted Michelle as the murderer who had tried framing her lover John Diamond from the beginning. Brewer told jurors, quote, she is playing this whole thing. In the end, he said all evidence pointed to Michelle as the killer, who was playing a delicate game to keep John Diamond close to her while at the same time setting him up.
Damn. She's devious.
Of a 6-panel jury, 4 people were needed to determine John's fate.
So that makes a majority.
It was like 2/3 needed. Yeah. 3 hours and 15 minutes later, they had a verdict. Now, it's never good when they have a quick verdict.
No,
Typically.
I guess it depends on what side of the table you're on.
John Diamond was found guilty on all charges. He showed no emotion. The following day at his sentencing hearing, John spoke with a cracked voice. He did show emotion this time and stated he was not responsible for Marty Thier's murder. John was ordered to spend the rest of his life in prison, never to be paroled. As he is being taken out of this, court-martial, he tells his mother, quote, "I didn't do it. If I did, I would tell you." And his mother said, "I know." And then he's swept away to prison. John Diamond told people his relationship with Michelle was only about sex, but that wasn't true. Within 2 months of meeting Michelle, John was talking about a future with her. John was smitten with Michelle and couldn't do enough for her. He had written to her, quote, "I love making your life easier. That's my function in life,
Oh, I say things like that to you.
And he wrote, quote, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you."
Oh, I say that to you.
I say that to you too.
Yeah, but I mean it. Unlike John Diamond.
Well, I mean it. Unlike Michelle Thier. I ain't set you up for murder.
But I don't even know, because if you are a scientist psychologist, you could be manipulating me.
Well, I'm not a scientist.
Okay.
I don't really like science.
You're not.
I think it's interesting, but I don't
You're not
actively pursue science.
You're not going to do the lab work.
Nah,
that doesn't appeal to you.
Nah,
the delicate nature.
I'm a creative person, Dylan.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you could create a cure to cancer, bud. Wouldn't that help the world?
Now, as Michelle's relationship with John flourished, her marriage to Marty grew worse. Michelle never attributed the troubles to John or her swinger lifestyle. Rather, she just blamed her husband, Marty, that things weren't working out.
Michelle is obviously a narcissist and a master at gaslighting.
Marty wasn't a lot of fun and didn't like to do things. These were like her major complaints about him.
Like other people.
Marty don't like me.
We don't ever do nothing.
Marty don't like to watch me get dicked down by 10 other men.
You know what would make this evening better? 7 more dicks.
I mean, don't threaten me with a go. Hey. So anyway.
That's fucked up, because I ain't got but one. And so where the hell am I supposed to get 6 more?
Ain't you got some friends?
No.
Haven't you tried to join the Carolina Swingers Network?
You think I got 6 friends?
Well, no, I know you ain't got 6
Okay.
friends. How do we even know 6 people?
Well, we're talking real life.
I think the real question is, do we like 6 people?
There you go. Now you've nailed
Does
it.
Rufus count?
On the head.
Can we consider him a person? Because he could be one of my 6.
I'm starting to wonder if our
people
dog
that I like
is cooling off from some horrible crime or criminal organization, because he will not let you take a picture of him. You're right. He freaks out every time he sees the camera come up. He can be at 50 feet from you and you point a camera at him and he turns away and he runs and he jumps out of my arms. I believe he is part of the mafia. So anyway.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm starting to wonder.
He's a crafty little fucker. Okay. Complicating matters worse was Marty's desire to have children, according to Michelle. Marty was also kind of undergoing a career crisis. Marty was growing dissatisfied with the military life, but knew he could get as much as $200,000 if he re-enlisted. Relocation would cause problems with Michelle getting a new job while Marty was transitioning out of the Air Force, because they had discussed if he did get out of the military, they would likely return to Colorado.
My God, do those re-enlistment bonuses get up $200,000?
Depending on what your job is, yes.
Oh, you said the more specialized and the more unique your
like
job.
Nukes, like in the Navy, I know people who are like nukes on subs and shit. Oh, they making paper.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, I've known people who get 15, 20 grand
well,
bonuses.
I worked with a really,
when I first joined the military, I got an enlistment bonus. It was like $6,000.
Yeah, I worked with a guy, a great guy. We called him Cuz at the mill, and he was Army Reserve. Had done it for years and years and was like an engineering outfit or whatever. But he got like 16 grand to re-enlist, and that was just in the reserves.
Yeah.
But he has more of a specialized
I'm saying
job.
just to join, I got $6,000.
Or if I can join and then like unjoin after I get the money. Or is that called AWOL?
Now you gotta like be in for some time before you get your bonus.
Damn it.
So you're gonna have to do something for a few months before you get it.
All right, they can just send me over there. I'll fix everything.
All right, over there where?
Just any of them places.
Damn, dude.
They can just drop me in there.
Can I get back to this, please?
Yes.
You're on a tangent. Okay. So they had discussed these issues for months, but had gotten nowhere. But again, it's all Marty's fault. All Marty's fault, right?
Oh my God, Marty.
In the summer of 2000, Michelle claimed she had found an ad on Marty's computer, much like the one she had seen in Florida. Now remember, she's convinced that Marty was having an affair.
Well, yeah, of course. That's her reasoning to be, serving it out of both pockets.
However, there was no independent evidence that showed Marty had anything more than maybe like an unhealthy interest in online porn. Like maybe he watched too much porn. But that's about it. There was no email exchange. There was no proof he had had an affair.
Just what Michelle says, basically.
Right.
And who's to decide how much is too much porn? I mean, honestly.
Well, yeah. People can do what they want.
People can do what they want.
Now, Michelle's been staying in Florida, but she leaves Florida and she goes to New Orleans, where she parks at her grandmother's house for a hot minute. During this time, she became increasingly paranoid and isolated. Michelle's Florida boyfriend, remember she had a boyfriend in Florida?
Yeah.
Well, his buddy had found her to be kind of shady, and when this fella looked her up online, he saw this news about Michelle possibly being involved in her husband's murder. So when he confronted her, Michelle told him, quote, "You want to play mind games with me? Go ahead. I'm the fucking master."
Oh, my God.
And I'm also a scientist.
Jesus. She's like Professor X up this bitch.
After another confrontation with this guy, she reportedly told him, "I'll have you killed too."
I'll have you killed too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So while she's in New Orleans, Michelle decides to move into her own apartment. But Dylan, she's living off credit cards and savings. She has no income. She doesn't have this life insurance policy. She couldn't work as a psychologist. Michelle soon found a boyfriend in New Orleans who even gave her a diamond ring.
Damn. Her next fiance.
Michelle dated another man, but she said he had gotten a threatening phone call from someone in Fayetteville and had dumped her. But the truth was the man was engaged to another woman while he was seeing Michelle. During this time, John's sister Deborah began spilling the beans to the Fayetteville newspaper about how manipulative Michelle had been, using her to get messages to John in jail. From prison in Leavenworth, John began telling relatives how stupid he had been falling under Michelle's spell. He said Michelle needed to be arrested for her part in the crime. He filed complaints against Michelle to the North Carolina Psychology Board. Michelle seemed to go off the deep end when this happened. She began making bizarre phone calls to John's family, who refused to talk to her. She even tried calling Deborah, John's sister, and used a fake English accent. And Deborah was like, "Michelle, leave me alone," and hung up on her.
What? Michelle? So just like...
Look, this is why we need to have such a deep dive, because this is just like, you can't make this stuff up.
I'm saying
it is so wild.
She meets a random guy in Florida and starts dating him, but then he received a threatening phone call from Fayetteville.
The guy in Florida's buddy found out Michelle was possibly involved in the murder.
No. Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they have confrontations about this. But then she goes on to New Orleans, and she's got another guy there who bought her a diamond ring.
Oh.
And then a second boyfriend.
Oh, it was in New Orleans.
That Michelle claims was getting these threatening phone calls from Fayetteville, but it turns out like he had a fiance. He had a fiance.
Right.
And he dumped her.
So how in the world could she expect anyone to ever believe that some dark force in Fayetteville would know that she's dating this random guy? And to track him down and call. It's so ridiculous. And this is what happens when these type of people, they believe their own bullshit.
Yes.
Which is very dangerous.
Yes.
People that they're so outlandish, and everyone around them's like, how do they expect it? But they say it enough to themselves, or they truly view their perspective convinces them that
for a psychologist, she has no self-awareness.
Yeah.
Of her own problems.
I wonder if she could diagnose herself with the whatever personality disorder she's got.
The Fayetteville police were waiting for more evidence to come in, and they knew that John's cooperation could help them land a case against Michelle Thier. Michelle's attorney advised her it was only a matter of time before she's indicted, and that news coming out of Fayetteville wasn't good.
No.
By April of 2002, word around Fayetteville was a murder indictment was imminent. And it came on May 21st of 2002. 18 months after Marty Thier's murder, a grand jury indicted Michelle on first-degree murder charges. Authorities told local media they had waited so long because they wanted to prepare the strongest possible case against Michelle Thier. Marty's relatives expressed relief. The next step was to arrest Michelle, but they had to find her because guess what, Dylan? Michelle Thier had disappeared.
She must have some good credit cards, all I can say. Because I can only run about 3 counties away on my credit cards.
You don't even have a credit card.
Well, I'm saying when I did have credit cards.
You could run about 3 miles away on your debit card is what you're saying. This is why I give you an allowance, because you're not responsible.
No, I do not need a credit card with like $100,000 limit. I would just buy ridiculous things.
Yeah, like cases of monsters.
Well, you're actually saving money when you do that.
See?
See, it's true.
They just keep like Marlboro lights and monsters and
look,
stock.
you went down to $1.50 a can now instead of $2.50. Look, you're saving $1
like,
every
wow,
can.
Dylan, you know, we could buy a house with this money, and you're like, a house built of monsters. Okay.
I need a monster.
Now, her information was listed in the NCIC database with law enforcement agencies across the United States to be on the lookout for Michelle Forcier or Michelle Thier. Her attorney said he anticipated that Michelle would do the right thing and surrender. But do you think Michelle's going to do the right thing, Dylan?
No.
U.S. Marshals were called in, as it was believed she had crossed state lines. Her last known address was in New Orleans. Michelle's grandmother in New Orleans thought that maybe Michelle had gone to Texas. Michelle had sort of dropped some hints that that's where she was going to go. However, Michelle was still in New Orleans at a hotel. She rented a storage unit in New Orleans under the name Elizabeth Pendragon.
If you're going to make up a fake name, bud, swing for the fences.
She went to the mall to get a haircut.
Pendragon.
Elizabeth Pendragon. She went to the mall to get a haircut, which she later described as an emotional experience in her diary or her little journal she was keeping.
The haircut?
Yeah. She chopped off her hair. It was such an emotional experience.
Oh, so you're changing your appearance because you're on the lam.
Yes.
Okay.
I've never understood I don't have any kind of attachment to my hair. I'm bald right now. I got a damn buzz cut. Like, you can see my scalp.
You look like
right?
one of them little burr-headed trailer kids.
I do. Well, that's what I am. I'm just a grown-up version of my burr-headed trailer kid.
I am too.
But I'm just like, I've never had an emotional attachment to my hair.
Yeah.
Like, I've never, even when I had really long hair and cut it off, I wasn't like,
right.
Like, I don't know.
So,
but I understand some people do have.
Some people, it could be almost traumatic.
Yeah.
For them that big of a change, and I do view it as just hair. But I have to say, like, if I go get a haircut and I have my hair the way I want it, and I feel like I look good or whatever, I can be real. If they mess up or I have to go use a different barber or something, I don't like it.
You're such a prima donna.
It really bugs me.
Diva.
I mean, it grows out.
Not me. I'm just like, fuck it. I'll just shave my head. I got this bad haircut. I'm just going to shave my head.
You always want to just cut my hair too. You're like, why do you pay barbers? I'm like, for the fade? You're not going to be able to give me a fade.
How do you know? I got barbering in my blood.
I know it runs in your blood, but we ain't even got quality clippers, Heather.
Well, maybe you need to buy me some then.
I'm not going.
It's all your fault, Dylan.
Half the reason we go to the barbershops to talk about our wives.
That don't bother me. You might talk about me, but I still got all your money, so go ahead and run your mouth.
Oh, it's all positive, dude. Damn. What the hell?
Okay.
Shit.
Can we get back to this?
Okay.
We still got a ways to go, Dylan.
Do we really?
No, not really, but I just need you to focus.
Okay.
Michelle then drove back to Florida. After she's put Elizabeth Pendragon, she's cut her hair, she's put her shit in storage.
Robert Toadstool here.
Yes.
Jesus.
Heather Hobbithole.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hobbithole, yes.
The only, it's such a strange name. They're like, the only reason I remember her to like tell the investigators some other dirt on her is because her name was Pendragon, and I thought it was fake. Oh my gosh.
She drives back to Florida. She checks in a motel for 2 nights. Then she finds an apartment and signs a 6-month lease in an area called Lauderdale by the Sea, which is about 40 miles northeast of Miami. And on this lease, she gives the name Liza Pendragon.
Okay.
She keeps a low profile, and she tells the landlord she had fled an abusive marriage in California and asks the woman not to tell anybody where she is. Like, if someone comes around asking about me, don't tell them because I've got this crazy ex-husband.
Look, I got to say, for the first time, that was actually rather crafty on her part, that lie, because that's going to evoke people's emotions. It's going to make them automatically feel protective over you. And it's actually a fair reason to ask that they never tell anyone your information. So that was good on her. That was crafty.
Michelle has $29,000 in cash, but she knew she needed a new identity in order to secure a job and credit cards, to get a new bank account, and be untraceable. She drafted a list on her computer of things she needed to do to secure a new life.
Oh, my God.
This bitch, she needs to quit drafting shit in her computer. It's not serving her purposes. Michelle then decided to do more. Because Michelle out here doing the most, Dylan. She had cosmetic surgery.
Step 1, run. Step 2,
run faster.
Get a new identity. Step 3, put out an ad for a search of fiancés. Step 4, cut your hair off and have an emotional.
Did you hear me? She had cosmetic surgery.
Step 5 is cosmetic surgery.
She wanted to get some work done on her nose and jawline, including fixing saggy eyelids and removing some acne scars on her cheeks and around her mouth.
So this is what a woman with limited money, which she still has a fair amount, $28,000. 29, that's a good chunk. And so instead of figuring it out, getting a job, or, working off the books, whatever, getting a house to live, she gets plastic surgery with that money, because that stuff's not cheap, the type of work you're talking about.
Oh, I'm telling you how much it costs, Dylan. She paid $11,397 for cosmetic surgery and another $3,375 for laser work to improve her skin condition.
Okay.
She underwent 6 hours of surgery on July 2nd of 2002. Before this, she wrote a letter to her father asking him to sell her yellow Corvette.
Oh, yeah.
While Michelle made plans, like getting her face fixed, federal marshals were on her trail, and it didn't take long for Michelle to be found in Florida. When arrested, Michelle's hair was cut short and dyed platinum blonde. Her face was swollen and red from the plastic surgery.
She hadn't even healed from the plastic surgery.
No.
That's great.
But she told marshals they had the wrong woman.
What are you talking about?
I don't even look like this Michelle Thier.
I'm Madam Pendragon.
Yes, my name is Liza Pendragon. It's like a romance novel name.
Oh, my God.
Well, Heather Hobbithole wants to continue her story.
Of the Manhattan Pinhole or Pendragons.
Now, at the time that she's captured, Michelle had been on the run for 2.5 months, and she was finally arrested on August 5th of 2002. In the apartment where she's arrested, there were books on how to fake IDs, avoid paper trails, and essentially disappear in America.
Avoid paper trails as she writes all this shit.
Yes. Maybe don't keep a fucking journal on your computer. She had a birth certificate for Elizabeth Tierney, born in Lubbock, Texas, and information for a website that made custom ID cards. She did have a real Florida driver's license with the name Alexandra Solomon listed.
Damn.
And her picture.
So she done got a real fake ID.
There were books about Mexico, learning Spanish along the way, some other items of interest that marshals seized. Oh, and by the way, at this apartment, she got a boyfriend. She's got another boyfriend who's like staying at this apartment with her.
Does she just order these dudes on through Amazon and they show up 2 days later?
I just don't know. I've never been, I guess, popular enough to have this many boyfriends in a row.
Why didn't you just leave with all the cash or get all the money out and just go to Mexico? If you get across the border the one time, you would have had a way better shot at hiding than going to Florida or New Orleans and making lists like how to lie to investigators, how to manipulate a dumb guy named John Diamond into killing my husband.
A fantastical name, a fantastical fake identity. Okay, so the local jail, once Michelle is arrested in Florida, they turn her away. So she's taken to a hospital and handcuffed to the bed. They turn her away because
her face
is all fucking weird after having plastic surgery. It requires all these like special ointments.
Yeah, the jail says we have nothing but bacteria here, so take her somewhere else.
While she's in the hospital, Michelle refuses to take the medications and snaps, quote, "I'm a fucking doctor and I know what I'm talking about."
A doctor of what, ma'am?
A scientist. Michelle had also been dating a man named Dana Horton, as I mentioned, and he was surprised to learn her real identity and that she was wanted for murder. I mean, this guy's just like, what?
Well, Liza lied to me.
Yeah. No, Alexandra.
Alexandra.
Michelle didn't fight extradition back to North Carolina. She was taken on a 10-hour drive back to Fayetteville, a car trip.
No, I'm saying shit. Yeah, exactly. She says
with her damn face all fucked up. And she said nothing the entire way.
She ran 5 hours away to the beach or something.
Yes. Michelle applied for an attorney stating that she was in debt. She had no money. She's broke. She needs a court-appointed lawyer. And it turns out that Michelle owed $82,000 in credit card debt.
Nice.
9 days after her arrest, Michelle appeared in court. Her face was swollen and glistened with ointment as she listened to the charges against her.
Well, I hope at least she was happy with her face after the swelling came down.
I have to say, she really doesn't look different at all.
Shut up.
She paid all this money and
you can't even tell nothing.
No.
So if she had healed up and ran off with a new fiance, she'd still look just like Michelle Weir.
She looks just
I want to see her. Thier.
Not Weir.
Sorry.
Thier, Dylan.
Michelle Thier.
Thier with a T-H. Thier.
So she would still look.
Weir.
I want to look at the side by sides and make fun of her.
Oh, they're posted on Instagram. I'll show you. She does not look that. She does not look different.
She would spend all that money and pain and suffering to not even look different.
No. She just looks the same, in my opinion.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, over the next year, Michelle would remain in jail without bail while she prepared for trial. With state assistance, she was granted a top defense attorney named Kirk Osborne of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I don't know how it works, Dylan. He specialized in death penalty cases. In the summer of 2004, both sides were ready to talk plea bargain. Prosecutors agreed to drop the death penalty and were now just seeking life in prison. Osborne wanted a bigger concession. He proposed that Michelle plead guilty to accessory after the fact of murder, a charge that would get her 93 months in prison. Now, at this time, she's 33 years old, so this would grant her parole at 40, and she would have plenty of life left to live. So she would serve like 7 years in jail.
Yeah.
Michelle rejected this plea
Shut
deal,
up.
going against her attorney.
They went, the prosecutor actually said okay.
Well, she's just saying, I'm not agreeing to any of this.
Oh, yes.
Michelle rejected this plea deal. From day one, she reminded her attorney she was innocent and she would let a jury decide. Does this ever go well for people?
No.
No. On September 27th of 2004, the district attorney opened by telling jurors, quote, "Do not let her deceive you as she deceived her own husband." Burn.
Damn, that's pretty sick burn, dude.
The prosecutor from the onset made it clear he wanted the jury to view Michelle as a lying, cheating, greedy, cold-blooded, manipulative sex fiend.
Damn.
Character evidence would flood Michelle's trial in a way it had not been used in John Diamond's military trial. Now, Dylan, I do have a bit of a problem with this because it's it's sexist. It's like we're not going to talk about John being this philanderer and all the shit he's doing, but we're going to slam Michelle and paint her like the harlot with the scarlet letter on her chest.
Yeah.
But also, it's a military trial versus a civilian trial.
Right,
But
which
I
will
think
be
it does show the differences. in
heavily
how-
male-dominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this was set to be a sensational trial with sex, violence, and betrayal conducted in the spotlight. Emergency workers described Michelle's vitals, which were calm despite her husband just being murdered. Others reported her change in temperament at the crime scene, from crying to growing testy and being hateful at times.
Yeah.
Just this back and forth, like Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing.
The mask slipping.
Yes. The picture painted of Michelle was in contrast with her courtroom demeanor. While she was sitting in the courtroom, she wept as prosecutors showed photos of the crime scene and sniffled when the pathologist testified about Marty's injuries. Damaging testimony continued. Michelle's former internet lovers were called to the stand, including that guy who found out her password was cheater.
He's been waiting for his moment in the sun, too.
Dr. Harbin gave damning testimony about Michelle's marital problems and the affair with John Diamond. Lourdes Diamond testified as well. Michelle's infidelities were addressed, and the prosecution painted a tawdry portrait with the help of a Fayetteville police computer expert who spent 3 days on the stand revealing for the jury dark secrets found on Michelle's computers.
Man.
Defense attorneys felt it was, quote, nothing more than an attempt to smear Michelle. Well, maybe so, but guess what? It's true.
Well, yeah, she's the one who kept putting everything on the damn computer. They also had a statement, an affidavit, David, from her father, Lord Baron Pendragon, who said he had no idea that his daughter, the lovely Eliza Pendragon, had done any of this.
The judge ruled that these affairs and that kind of thing was allowed because it showed Michelle's state of mind, the relationship with her husband, and, you know, that she had been going outside of the marriage. Swinger sex and obsessive love decimated Michelle's reputation. Of course, her defense, they're objecting to this.
So
the judge is like, nope, it's allowed.
So their whole character or the list of witnesses, the defense is basically this is a character assassination.
Yes.
She can't get a fair trial under this atmosphere, blah, blah, blah.
But the judge is like, nope. She's a hoe. I said that she's a hoe. Okay. So with the evidence mounting against Michelle, so were animosities in the courtroom, especially when they brought a jail informant in to testify. A woman named Rosada Rivera, who had spent time with Michelle in the Cumberland County Jail, told jurors about the affair with John Diamond. She shared Michelle's conversations about John Diamond, how he would do anything for her, and that Michelle had given him an ultimatum. If he wanted to be with Michelle, she needed Marty to be gone. And Rivera's not getting anything out of this. She's not made any kind of deal with, to get less time.
Yeah, right. Which I think when someone a jail informant comes forward and they're not getting any time off their sentence, they're not getting any kind of bonus out of this, it has to add to their credibility.
Rivera also discussed Michelle's sexual relationship with a female inmate at the Cumberland County Jail, and that Michelle had claimed to have an inappropriate relationship with her attorney, Kirk Osborne. Now, Osborne denied this for weeks. This really cast a dark cloud over him as an attorney.
He's like, now hold on a second.
This is very unethical.
Now hold on a second.
When the case went to jury, it only took 3 hours to reach a verdict. On December 3rd of 2004, Michelle Thier was found guilty on conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder. She had no reaction to this. There was no emotional reaction. She seemed to just sort of be frozen.
Okay.
Michelle Thier was sentenced to life in prison, which would be served at the North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women in Raleigh, North Carolina. In interviews since, Michelle has portrayed herself as a woman wronged by police, by John, who now believes he was the gunman.
She believes he was.
Yes.
But she didn't ask him to do it.
No.
She was not the mastermind.
Somehow, Dylan, she admitted that despite her psychological training, she had missed this.
So, I can't. Wow. She's really grown as a person, able to admit that in public.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's written down somewhere in a journal.
She's got a TikTok that's like, as a psychologist, I'm finally not afraid to admit this.
Yes.
Like she posted it on TikTok. And then on the next slide, it says, I believed John Diamond and I was wrong.
Yes.
I looked him in his eyes and he fooled me.
He sexed me into a jail cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This woman.
This bitch.
This,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I've been trying to not use that word lately.
No, but she is.
She truly is.
I don't feel bad. Normally, I would not be like, this bitch, this hoe, but
she's a piece of shit.
She is such a nasty person that I don't feel bad at all calling her these things.
Oh, my gosh.
She is a piece of work.
Damn, Michelle. I bet the whole time you were researching the story, you were like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like, she just keeps adding layers.
That's why I wanted to like do such a deep dive into the story.
Jeez.
Because I'm just like, this woman beats all I've ever seen.
And
she is something else.
And you've seen some pretty hardcore narcissists. They might not have been psychologist scientists, but they were narcissists just the same.
But even though they don't have a degree, they want to diagnose you.
Yeah.
When I love how people who
need something,
who need some therapy and need some fucking help, they tell you need the help.
Right. And they usually do this like after they've just had like a really bad episode where they totally lost their shit.
Yeah.
But then they're telling you you're the one who needs to get your shit together.
Are you my mom?
you need therapy because look what you just made me do.
Yes. How you made me do this.
Look what you made me do, Heather.
It's all your fault. All right, Dylan. That has been our dive into Dr. Michelle Thier. And what's so sad about this, at the end of the day, this man lost his life.
Yeah.
And for what?
Two bumbling idiots.
Because his wife was just, I don't know, man.
I'm saying.
Too greedy.
Well, I'm saying she never gained.
Just get a divorce.
She never gained anything.
She
never
nothing.
got the money. It ruined her life. It just made her look like a total dumbass and a monster.
All she did was spend a lot of money for cosmetic surgery to look the damn same.
Yeah.
Because she looks the same.
No, and she's like, no, look, under a certain light, you can see that's better right there on my face. Stupid. Well, thank you for that. That's been quite a ride.
Don't forget to check out all of the cool podcasts on the Darkcast Network. So many great indie pods. We are so excited to partner with them for another year and be part of the Darkcast Network, but a lot of great podcasts. You were listening to Horrifying History, right, Dylan?
I haven't got it. It's in my queue.
I know you said you had downloaded their latest episode. You were going to listen, right?
No, well, you know what? I actually got Discord. Dustin was like, you guys talk about Darkcast Network. Are you really listening? And he was right. I haven't actually went through and picked an episode from, I a little, but to actually listen to somebody, you got to try a few episodes. So I'm doing it per podcast and I'm doing the entire Darkcast Network.
Okay.
And I want to report back, and I'm going to start with Horrifying History.
Well, I am listening to the pods on Darkcast.
Yeah, I know you are.
And I have to say, Dylan, Fuck That, which is a true crime podcast. And, we say fuck a lot.
It's true.
Okay. It's really fun. It's hosted by Ashley. She is a true crime fanatic. There's Dan. He doesn't really know anything about true crime whatsoever. So they are like, it's a fun combination.
Okay.
It's really entertaining. I always kind of like when you have the one person who is the true crime person.
Yeah.
And then the other who's along for the ride.
It's kind of like our podcast.
A little bit.
You're along for the ride with me.
Creepy Tapas, which I love their tagline, a tiny taste of terror.
Oh, it's just a little bite.
They're like a horror podcast, Dylan, and they talk about just creepy stuff each week. So not really true crime, but you're still getting that like spooky vibe.
A lot of people like the creepypasta vibe.
Yeah, weird true crime. Hosts Gina and Amber, they take turns sharing some of the like weirdest true crime stories. It's quite entertaining. You definitely want to check it out. One of the new Darkcast shows is Over the Fence. Cody and Molly discuss true crime in the most normal place in the world, Over the Fence. Well, to be more specific, over their backyard fence. They were kind of inspired to create this podcast over their shared fascination with true crime. And I kind of like that. It reminds me of...
I know what you're going to say.
Tim
the Toolman Taylor and his
Yes.
neighbor Wilson.
Yes. And their little... over the
You
fence.
never see below Wilson's eye. Was it Wilson?
It's... Yeah.
You never see below his eyes.
Wasn't that his name?
I think so. But I've never seen that man's face.
Well,
And
no, I think that was the whole running...
No,
shtick.
I get it. I never looked it up to see who the actor was or anything. So I only know him from his nose and up.
There are so many, though. There's Murder and Mimosas, which is like a mother-daughter podcast team. They focus on lesser-known crimes. I mean, I could go on and on, but there are so many great podcasts on Darkcast, so you definitely want to go check that out. And if you're feeling froggy, you can join us at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. There you're going to get ad-free episodes.
Yeah, and you'll get bonus episodes just like when I do watch on Quiet on the Set, where we'll have an at-length discussion about it on Patreon.
Yeah, we do have some bonus episodes that will be posted on Patreon. I know I said that last week, but they are coming this week, so be on the lookout for those. Dylan, anything else before we wrap up this nearly 2-hour episode? Nothing but bangers here.
Nothing but bangers. No, I have some great ideas for podcasts, but I don't know if Heather will let me do them. So we'll see how that develops in the future.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks for that contribution, which was so vague and meaningless.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's wrap things up, Dylan.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Before you say something else that doesn't really
Yeah.
add any value to the conversation.
Look, I'm going to smolder on my way out. Look
Bye.
at me. Bye.